Okay. Yep. Looks like we're live. Let me just see how we look like on Twitch. Yep. We're live. Okay. Looks good on Twitch too. This is perfect. All right, everyone. Hello and welcome. And this is going to be my first review on the manga series Kingdom by Yasuhisa Hara. It's a manga series that I recently caught up to, and I'm very excited to review. And today I'll be reviewing the most recent chapter, chapter 647, Activity at Kanan. So to start out, the chapter starts with Kane extremely flustered after her previous interaction with Riboku. If you didn't remember, in chapter 646, the chapter ends with Riboku being very depressed at the situation at hand, being that he's now officially and formally exiled from the capital and on the run from Sen's forces, and he's just tired. He doesn't know how he's going to get out of the situation, and he feels completely beaten mentally. And so Kane tries to cheer him up, and she gives him a hug of sorts to try and cheer up, and immediately she feels very embarrassed and flustered by this, but he thanks her for it. As we now see in this chapter, she doesn't know how to react to it. It's clearly shown that her loyalty and admiration to him as a commanding officer has transformed into romantic feelings for him, and she just isn't ready to process it. But despite the awkwardness, Fuboku does see Kane as a valuable friend and ally, and it really shows that his supporters do believe in him and will support in him even when he's at some of his lowest points. And I think that's to solidify to him that he does he does matter, and that what he's doing is actually something worth fighting for, and that there are people that do believe in his vision about what's right for Zhao. So it's really good. I do wonder how Hara is going to handle the aspect of romantic feelings, because I don't think Riboku reciprocates those feelings for him. I for her, I think he more respects and trusts her as a member of his inner circle, but I don't think he sees Kane in a romantic way in the way that Kane sees him. So I wonder how that's going to work. If anything, this may be a setup by Hara to have Kane defect to Chin to take down Sen after a potential Riboku execution. I don't personally know the historical facts around this period of time, but we know that Hara does take several liberties with history, so maybe Kane defecting to Chin isn't so far-fetched. Remember, she does have a good relationship with Karyo ever since the two met on the battle where Hoken killed Oki, so who knows, maybe Kane does defect after a Riboku execution. That's something that may be set up, may not be set up, but who knows where Hara is going to take this. Immediately after Kane has her little mental breakdown, we see Fute, Bananji, and Suiji rendezvous with them to discuss the situation at hand. And as expected, Riboku and Prince Ka's faction are now officially labeled a rebel force, and they're being hunted by the royal forces of Kantan, of Sen, and also by any other nearby forces that happen to encounter them throughout the Zhao mainland. Shunsuiji informs everyone of their three options, and none of which are particularly desirable. The first is obviously surrender and face mass execution for treason, something that I don't think any of them really want to do. The second is to continue fleeing through the lands of Zhao and clash with various armies loyal to Sen until they either persevere or are inevitably wiped out. And then their final option is to lay siege to Kantan and take the throne from Sen by force and reinstate Prince Ka as the ruler of Zhao. Shunsuiji even openly states that maybe they should just circumvent the royal family entirely and just put Riboku on the throne after ousting Sen, which Riboku promptly shuts down. As we all know, Riboku is a staunch supporter of the Zhao royal family, and he himself does not have any ambitions about being ruler of Zhao. He was once prime minister, and obviously he's one of the three great heavens and one of the great generals under the heavens for Zhao. But I don't think becoming ruler of Zhao is something that he himself has any aspirations for. But it is telling that Hara would add Shunsuiji openly stating this to everyone, that Riboku should be king and that they'd be more than willing to oust anybody to get Riboku the king. And I think this is to show that Riboku's forces are loyal to him and him alone. I mean, that was obviously evidenced by the fact that they broke into the capital and killed numerous guards to get Riboku. But this is to show that if they had their way, they would have Riboku sitting on the throne, and Zhao would be under his full authority. Which is to show right there that these forces will die for Riboku. And moving forward, if Chin breaks through Zhao and they come across Riboku, they will fight to the bitter end, and that will make the battles that much more bloodier and that much more difficult to overcome. Because Fute, Kane, Bananji, Shunsuiji, all of them are formidable warriors, and when backed into a corner, they will fight to the very end if it means Riboku has a sliver of a chance of living. So I think this is really telling Hara to have them go so far as to say that this is what they'll do for him. Ultimately, though, Riboku has the last say, and he decides to continue fleeing as he believes that the Chin will prove far too formidable for Kakukai and Sen to handle without his help. Remember, the Chin has a massive force stationed at Gyo, with armies of Yotanwa, Kanki, Osen, Ohon, Moten, and Rishin. Their massive armies are within Zhao borders, and all of them are formidable warriors, so they may break through the royal armies of Kantan, even if they haven't seen any battle yet. The fact of the matter is that the Chin have a huge surge of momentum ever since breaking through to Gyo and taking out Hoken. Chin has a huge momentum surge, and I believe that probably will overwhelm Kakukai and Sen like Riboku thinks they will. However, Riboku is not going to wander aimlessly throughout the Zhao mainland. He actually plans to set out to Sekai City to enlist the help of Lord Shi Baishao. And if this goes according to plan, then the Qin are in for a world of hell, because Shiba Shao is considered to be on the level of Zhao's three great heavens. And we even get a hint of this when he forced Great General Ordo of Yan and his force of 20,000 soldiers to retreat while only using a quarter of that number within his own forces. Shi Baishao is someone that we haven't seen too much in the series, but the fact that Hara has hyped him up as potentially that third great heaven of this generation alongside Riboku and Hoken really shows that he is the real deal. And potentially, if all goes well, like Riboku says, how Shi Baishao has already welcomed him to Seka City, that means that a potential army of Riboku, Shi Baishao, Kisui, and the Royal Army of Kantan, that unified force may be able to repel anything the Qin throw at them. But only time will tell will play out, and you have to remember, this is the warring states period, meaning any state, not just Qin, can invade Zhao at any moment and completely throw that alliance into disarray. So we'll have to see how Hara wants to play this out, but if this goes well for Riboku, Zhao may still have a lot of fight left in them yet. The next thing we see is that Kakukai has put in the contingency plans that Riboku left for him while he was in prison, and he's trying to pass them off as his own. And this, for one, shows that Riboku is absolutely right. He is a valuable asset to Zhao and the Zhao throne, and that they will need his plans when it comes to succeeding against the Qin. The fact that Kakukai's only way of stopping the Qin was to use Riboku's plans already proves Riboku right. They will need his help, and it's only a matter of time. But right now, they're not interested in his help, and they're much rather use his contingency plans to pass them off as their own. But they're still good plans, so they're working. The Royal Army of Kantan has finally been deployed. After so long, this army that has been touted as one of the best armies in all of Zhao has finally made their move, and they've already started to reinforce the various battlefronts to make sure that Qin has made no progress past Go. We're even told that two cities, Hongo and Hyeyo, have been transformed into massive military strongholds, meaning that they'll probably be the sites of some epic battles when Qin finally goes back on the offensive, even made bigger by the fact that if the reunification of the Zhao armies does come to fruition, then those strongholds are going to become infinitely more difficult to take over, especially with Riboku at the helm. So we'll have to see how that front's going to work out, but it's not going to be easy for the Qin or really any of the states that ever try to invade that area. We get a mini time skip as the year changes to 235 BCE, and the narrator informs us that two big events will happen this year, one of which will be a war between three states within China. Who those states are currently unknown, but without looking into the history books too much, I'd hazard to guess that the three states going to war are going to be Qin, Zhao, and Chu. These three states are the superpowers within China currently, and all three are going through internal changes that will result in each faction growing and consolidating more power, which will explode into war. That's just my guess, but for all we know, Han or Wei may be the third faction, and Chu may hold back. However, I'm fairly confident, at least, that Qin and Zhao will be involved in this war. The second big event that we know is coming this year is the final confrontation between Sei and Ryofui. Mr. Shi informs Sei, Shobun-kun, and us, the audience, this chapter, that Ryofui has been gathering and consolidating power amongst all of the remaining rogue factions within Qin, meaning that even in exile, after all of the things that he's done to torment Sei and make Qin an even weaker state and make the process of reunification that much more harder, Ryofui still finds a way to garner so much support. His faction now includes Ketsu's faction, which is a faction that's been laid dormant ever since really the beginning of the series, back when Sekio tried to take power. So the fact that there's still remnants of Ketsu's faction that are now being folded into the fray really shows how deep this is. We're also seeing remnants of the state of Ai also fall under Ryofui's banner. And as we already know, the state of Ai was kind of sort of a puppet state created by Ryofui, kind of not really. But the fact that they're going under him shows he really is pulling every single faction that potentially hates Sei, and he's going to use them to his full advantage. In fact, Mr. Shi even tells us that because all these factions have fallen under Ryofui's sway, he has enough clout to challenge the royal court. And this is after, remember, all four of his pillars have pledged loyalty to Sei, with Mobu being the great general, with Rishi and Xiaohei-kun being the head of military and head of the legal department respectively, and his fourth pillar passing away due to old age. The fact that Ryofui has this much power shows that if he succeeded, he very well could have taken over all of China if he put his mind to it. But regardless, without his four pillars, Ryofui is still a force to be reckoned with. And that if Qin wants to launch a reunification campaign of China, then Ryofui and his allies must be folded in as soon as possible. Either they have to be folded in or executed en masse. And I don't think Sei wants to execute more people outside of Ryofui. I think he really wants to take as many people as he can under his banner to make sure that China becomes reunified. And I don't think he wants to achieve that by executing any and everyone that allies with Ryofui, but just executing Ryofui himself. We even see that Mr. Shi even suggests that Ryofui must be executed, because his influence and power grows with every day, and he'll be very soon before his power grows to be that much stronger. Sei actually agrees, but decides he wants to have one last conversation with Ryofui before all is said and done. This sets the stage for their final confrontation. This is a battle between rivals that has lasted since Sei was a teenager, and it's been well over a decade since we first seen this happen. And I'm thoroughly excited to see what will come from this conversation, as well as the implications that it may have, not just for Qin, but for the war with Zhao. Because as we know, these remnants also carry soldiers with them and generals. And so that added manpower may be enough to help tip the scales where even if a reunified Zhao army comes together to push the Qin back from Gil, they may have just enough reinforcements to either hold on or potentially push back this reunified Zhao army. So who knows where Hara will take it, but I'm thoroughly interested and I'm fully invested to see where this arc is going to go with. Ryofui is probably one of the best antagonists the series has. So with the next chapter is currently going to focus on him and his relationship with Sei and what he plans to do with his newest faction. I guarantee you Hara is going to deliver some amazing chapters, so I can't wait. Overall, I'd give the chapter an 8 out of 10. It was a highly informative chapter, and it's the perfect setup chapter for plots moving forward. We get to see just exactly the lay of the land for how things are going to work between Sei and Ryofui, as well as Sen and Ka, and as well as Riboku and Shiba Xiao. Overall, solid chapter and great setup for the war to come. And that's going to be my review for Kingdom Chapter 647, Activity at Kanan. So after this,